Welcome everybody to the Skookum Session Bigfoot podcast. We are in season 4. It's going to be episode 4 tonight. We got just the 4 of us. We've got Justin. Justin, how's it going?
Good. How you guys doing tonight?
Great to see you. Thanks for coming on, man.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Always love having you on. We've got the living legend himself, Mr. Gary Spikes Jr. And Gary, what's going on, brother?
I don't know about a living legend, but how you doing?
I've heard some stories.
Comparing me to a legend and around you guys is like comparing a possum to a pit bull. You know, if anybody's legends, it's you guys.
Oh, come on now. You're being bashful. Well, thanks for coming on, Gary. I always love having you on, man.
Thank you.
Next, we've got the one and only, the all famous Mr. John. You going by Switzer or Schweitzer tonight?
Oh, it's Sir Schweitzer.
It's Sir Schweitzer. Okay, I got it. I got this.
I'm a legend in my own mind.
Well, of course, yeah, as am I. So tonight, you know, I got to give Switzer credit for this idea. We were trying to think of topics over the week, and I think from now on, what we're going to do is we're going to reach out to you viewers, you know, in between each show, and have you throw out some topics for us or some questions you want answered, and on the following show we're gonna tackle them for you. You know, that sounds like a great idea, you know, especially for those of you new to the field. But tonight we're gonna get into kind of going back to the basics, setting all speculation aside. We're gonna get into a little bit of, you know, tracking, you know, common mistakes made when you're out doing Bigfoot research. For example, you know, mistaking a bear track for a Sasquatch track, jumping to a conclusion, hey, I found a line of Sasquatch tracks. Well, granted, it turns out it was only just a bear, you know. Common mistakes, how to tell the difference, what is the evidence that you're looking at, you know, how do we process this evidence? You know, getting back to the basics, and then putting the evidence out there, you know, if you're you know, process, like I said, if you're processing it or not. So like I said, yeah, we're gonna go, each of us are gonna give our little piece of mind. We're gonna go in alphabetical order. So Justin, as far as common mistakes for people first getting involved in this field, what do you have to say to them?
Well, the biggest trend I'm seeing right now is people will take a piece of evidence or a supposed piece of evidence and have all these assumptions about what it means.
Mm-hmm.
And so like you were using tracks for an example, you find a track, all you really know is that you're seeing something on the ground to start with. That's it.
Yeah.
Don't know what it is. You don't know anything about it. So you got to get into it. You got to look at it, you know.
Right.
Then you also have to look for, is it a track way? Because tracks don't happen in isolation. Right. So you've really got to have an understanding of what you're looking at. To see a depression on the ground, in the moss, in the leaves, and just come up and say this is a Bigfoot track is ludicrous. It's absolutely ludicrous, right? And so, yes, I mean, that's what we do, is that's what we're looking for. But every good researcher I've ever talked to has the mantra of eliminating all the possibilities first.
Absolutely.
Okay. And my view is, if there's any questionable doubt, you keep it for your own stockpile, for your own files, but you can't present it as legitimate evidence.
Right.
You just can't do it. If you can show, well, it could have been this, or it could have been this, then that's as far as you can go with it.
Right.
But what I'm seeing a big trend of nowadays is going, yeah, it could have been that, but I think it's this because that's what I think. And then I'm going to build off of that and make all these huge assumptions off of that. And in legitimate research, that's just the wrong way to go about it. So to me, going back to the basics is understanding what you're doing. What are you looking at? Is it, if you're looking at a picture, you can't just go, here's a dark shape, it's a dog man.
Right.
Here's a shape, Bigfoot. You know, here's 2 points of light in this picture, they're glowing eyes. You can't do that.
Right.
Because honestly, it could be tricks of the light. It could be reflection off of leaves that are back in a hollow because of the way the camera's picking things up. There's so many things it could be. You cannot just automatically go to this is what it is. You know, I know it's a dog man. I know it's a Bigfoot. I know it's a cryptid. I see a face. We can't use that as evidence in this field, guys, if we want to be taken seriously.
Absolutely.
You know, taking enough heat as it is.
What is evidence? What is not evidence? And it has to be something that you can definitely point to that stands up under scrutiny.
Sure.
You know,
that's the big thing, because, you know, like I was saying, we take enough flack, you know, as it is.
Well,
you know, so
I think you brought up a real good point, Justin. This and Jeremiah, this community is so full because there is a lack of definite evidence, because we are chasing a very elusive subject. But we have to get out of this mantra of anything is evidence.
Yeah.
Like Justin said, if you doubt it, don't keep it for yourself, but don't post it, because that's what's ruining the community in this era. You know, it's like, you know, John's got, and Justin both, and Jeremiah, y'all all got definite, to me, legitimate evidence, but y'all don't post it in public because there's still that shadow of a doubt and a hint of what's the word I'm looking for, of it not being legit. And in doing that, that's respectful. But we have so many people that anything that is definitely, you can tell it's not what they're saying it is, and they post it anyways because they don't care.
Right.
They want 15 minutes worth of fame.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know, Justin, you brought up a good point about the, you know, the blobs in the woods. You know, I think pareidolia is one of the main things in this field too. That's kind of ruining. I don't know if I want to say ruining, because, like I said, a lot of these people doing it are just beginners. But, you know, that's a very important thing that we mentioned is the pareidolia, because, like you said, Justin, could be a reflection, could be the way the leaves are patterned. You know. And you flick a picture of the wood, they're flicking pictures of these wood lines and these shadows, and then they say, oh, that's a Bigfoot, you know, or that's a dog man. That's whatever. What is it you say, John? If you know, you got to circle it, what?
Oh, yeah. If it's not got a yellow or red circle or an arrow, it's how could it possibly be real? You know, you got to circle it for it's real.
What's your old saying? If you got to circle it, you ain't got what?
Oh gosh, you would hit me with that. You ain't got squat.
That's it. You ain't got squatch.
Let's change that a little bit. If you got to circle it, you ain't got squatch.
Right. That's what I was looking for right there. Yeah.
You ain't got squatch. Yep, that's right. That's how it went.
I'm an admin in several groups.
Yeah.
And seeing a huge trend. And there's I would just say, there's like 5 or 6 people that are trying to push themselves into the cryptid research world. They call themselves researchers.
Yes.
But to see is pictures of wood lines, and every dark spot in the tree line, they're circling it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, look, that's ridiculous, guys. Listen, we've been researching this for a very long time. We're not going to go stand in a copse of trees and take a picture and find 6 Bigfoot standing in that copse of trees.
Right.
It's not happening. That's not how they function. That's not how they operate. They don't work that way.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like all the research I've done, all the reports I've taken, it don't generally congregate together in one area. They are more spread out as far as, well, like we're like hanging out in the living room. We're all sitting on a couch and we're all 2-3 feet apart.
Yeah.
Right across the living room. These guys are 30, 40, 50 yards apart, and they're still able to communicate with each other and see and function, right? They don't operate in close quarters as a general rule. Now, yes, they come together for different things, for feeding, for hunting, absolutely. But in their downtime, their rest time, that's one of the ways they have survived for so long without detection, right? Is because we would easily detect a group of 4 or 5 that are right next to each other, hanging out in a bunch of trees.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like we're following.
Absolutely.
Very few track lines have more than one individual for any length of time on that track line.
Yeah.
yeah, you can have a juvenile with a parent, and those track lines tend to run in pairs, and the kids walking and stuff. But how many track lines have I read about where you're following a track line and all of a sudden they come together and you might have 2 or 3 individuals, but then they spread apart again and they go their own ways. They don't walk together as a group.
Yeah.
And so when I see these pictures of like, oh, I took this picture of a selfie and behind me is 7 Bigfoot.
Right.
Like, okay, come on, guys, let's be real. This is ridiculous. But those guys are gaining momentum. And so now more and more people are just going out, snapping pictures of trees like in their backyard and going, look, I see all these dark spots up in the trees. It's Bigfoot watching me.
Yeah.
And it's ludicrous.
And the other one, I think especially John, Gary, you guys are big, big survivalists. Another trend, and Justin, you're going to agree with me on this too. Another one I'm seeing out there now is the tree structures. If a tree's bent, it's got an arch. A Bigfoot did it. Or if you see a structure in the woods, a teepee structure, well, no one comes here, so a human being couldn't have built it. Well, guess what? You were there.
Yeah.
Amen. You were there. I mean, Gary, I mean, with your background, I mean, you guys were trained how to build certain things like that. Am I correct?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, that's the big thing for me that drives me nuts about. Well, you don't get me on a rant, but so many people, I throw structures out the window anyway if they're within 5 miles of any given trail. And 90% of the time, the average person's not going to go that far away from a trail because the outdoor community, thanks to a very good friend of mine, and I'm an influencer, Les Stroud, Bear Grylls, all these guys, that community is growing and people go practice. I have literally come across investigators here in Oklahoma that get on their social media. Oh my God, we found a Bigfoot structure. And I'm like, no, guys, I watched the guys build that structure. And then they want to call me down for it. Right. You can't take that into account. Now, when you're in where you're at or Montana, there are certain ones that has structures made of trees that's 18 inches in diameter, that there's no snow load, no wind load that could cause this, that's interwoven. Now that to me is legit, but 90% of tree structures to me is once again is part of that evidence that you can't, it's good to take note and put in your books, but you can't go by it,
Right.
I can't.
We know what we have. We have to look at what we have as far as data. The data is there is a structure made out of trees and bushes and branches. That's literally all you can say about it.
Yes.
You cannot say who did it, when it was. My biggest thing is, this structure looks like it's been here for 4 years.
Well,
like how you can't really do that. I mean, I get it. People with Gary's skills for tracking can tell how long a track has been there.
Absolutely.
Sure. Yes.
But the tree could have been laying there and it could have been dragged for those kinds of things for the average layman researcher out there. It's impossible.
And the big thing, a couple of years ago, John mentioned something that we was talking about this subject in one of our private groups, and John mentioned something. Him being in Indiana and me being here in Oklahoma and you too, Justin, being in Kentucky, we get some crazy storms. So snow load is not an issue for us now. Where Jeremiah is, snow load's an issue, but for us, these winds, we get straight line winds, we get tornadoes, we get very unpredictable winds, and they can cause crazy structures.
They'll take a tree and twist it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
People don't believe that, but I've seen it. Not that I've seen it necessarily, but go talk to meteorologists. I mean, I've seen straw driven into telephone poles.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
stupid
the
stuff.
big thing for me, John, is when we was discussing about, the cornfields and stuff, where you said it looked like somebody had taken a bunch of corn stalks and literally just twisted them around each other, and they was still, still standing. And you watched that little dust devil, what I call a dust devil,
Did it.
actually watched it do it,
Yeah, in part, I saw it taken and started like that. And it was the craziest darn thing. You know what? And it's the only time I have ever seen that in my life, And I was driving down the road. If it was the same one, I'm driving down the road and I seen the corn moving around like this. And I thought it was a combine or some big piece of farming machinery coming out. So I slowed down. And I kept creeping up on it. I finally got up there to the point to where, well, you know how when you're going through a car wash and you go through the drying and the heating procedure and all that air starts hitting your car and rocking you around, that's what it felt like, only a little bit stronger. And I looked to my left. I thought, what kind of machinery is this? There ain't nothing there. But the corn is doing like this. And it's pulling corn off, not the ears. I should say that it's dismantling leaves and debris that would break off easily enough. But yeah.
That's a perfect example, though, of you witnessing something.
I saw something. Yeah, it's the only time ever
where people would think, hey, something wove those together.
Oh yeah, had to be Bigfoot.
You saw it actually happen, which proves that's kind of stuff does happen naturally. Where someone would look at that and they would say, "There's no way that happened naturally." Well, you saw it happen.
Yeah,
you saw it happen.
In part, I saw it happen. I'll put it that way. In part, okay. I didn't stick around to see the rest because, like, my car was doing like this, and I thought it might be pertinent to the situation to keep driving, to get that out of there. But, yeah.
But in saying that, just like Justin was saying, if an average person was to come across that without knowing, having your skill set, and you, I wouldn't even have believed it, but I've seen it happen here in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
But if they came across it, that would be if not even just a Bigfoot thing, but could have been anything paranormal.
Alien. That was a flying saucer trying to land.
Whatever.
Whatever somebody wanted to attribute to it,
Yeah. I mean, people's ideas is what it. Yeah. Anyway, it ain't my turn yet. So there.
When I was living up in Tennessee, further up in Tennessee by Rogersville, I went out one day. We had like some acres that was woods up in the hollers, and I found several trees that had been like the bark and the part of the tree itself had been splintered off and torn off. Mm-hmm. Okay. And normally I'm thinking, woodpecker, maybe kind of woodpecker damage, porcupine going up and eating, the bark and the flesh of the wood there a little bit. But what was crazy about it is it happened within just a couple of day time frame, because I was out in the woods all the time, and they were done in a straight line. About every 20 to 50 yards was another tree.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I got the pictures on Facebook. If you guys want to look, I can pull them up. It's in one I got labeled woods or something like that when I was, checking out my own property up there. Never did figure out what it was.
Right.
It could have been a bear coming through, or, a couple of bears coming through and just tearing up. But it was like severe damage. It was crazy. Never seen anything like this before.
Yeah.
Some of the trees were to the point where they were like chewed halfway through. I mean, it was insane. I've never seen anything like it before or since. I've seen porcupine damage. I've seen all that. I've seen bear trees, that bears used for scratching on and digging up worms, grubs and all that. Never seen anything like it. But that's all I can say about it. I can't say, oh, that was a Bigfoot coming through or anything else, because you can't say that because you don't know. Speculation is not evidence.
No.
Right?
No.
Right.
With my research going through the reports, I do a lot of speculation, right? Because I read all these reports and then I build kind of profiles off of those reports. And I'll tell you right up, most of that is theorization and speculation. It's a semi-educated guess, right? But that's
sure.
different than looking at tangible evidence and then trying to build this whole scenario around damaged trees. You can't do it without any more like if I had a trackway of Bigfoot prints leading to tree to tree to tree, then I could say something.
Yep.
Right? Just damage, and that's people are doing that. Oh, this was a Bigfoot walking through and damaging these trees as it came through. Well, how do you say that? Where's your backup evidence? Oh, I just know. I'm sorry, that might work for you, but that doesn't work for presenting evidence out to the community as a whole.
Right. Now, yeah, you know, and you just brought up a good point, Justin. You know, if you said if people are seeing these creatures actually do this stuff, that's a different story. Nick actually turned the case over to me years ago. You've all seen the pictures. You know, it was down in southern New York. A lady had a group of Sasquatches on her property, and she was seeing them on a regular basis. Now, we went down, and I've sent you guys the pictures of the mounds that these things would set up, and they were throwing her grandson's toys in the middle of the mounds. Now these trees were ripped out by the roots, jammed back in, and the roots were tied in knots. You know, she actually saw one push a tree over one day. Now, I found her as a researcher, you know, after, like you, Justin, you were just saying, after taking so many reports over the years, you know, I found her to be very credible. You know, I talked to her neighbors. They had seen the same things happen. Talked to the neighbors on the other side of her. They had seen the same things happen. Now, we aren't, don't get us wrong, everyone out there. We're not saying this stuff doesn't happen, but it does. What we're saying is to follow your evidence and be skeptical.
Absolutely.
Be skeptical.
Well, you don't even have to be skeptical. I don't like using that word anymore, because to me, skeptical is somebody that doesn't believe. But be analytical.
Analytical. Yeah. Better word. Yeah.
Well, you say somebody that doesn't believe, you know, what comes to my mind is something that's been written. As a matter of fact, I got it right in front of me here, and it says, "It's for the believer, no proof is necessary, but for the skeptic, no proof is possible."
Yep.
Yeah. And that's so true. But you know, you made a couple of things I want to, before it's my turn. You're talking about a line of trees, Justin, right? Now, maybe my mind is just so simple, and I'm getting older, so it's like, well, he's an old guy. He thinks things are like, you know. Anyway, anybody can think what they want to about me. I'm old enough. I don't give a flying rat's tail. All right. Or it doesn't matter to me, you know. But have y'all, it's pretty simple. Have y'all ever seen a black bear or any bear with a couple of cubs? Mama's heading in a straight line to the water. And what are the cubs doing behind her? They're tearing crap up. They're climbing up every tree on the way. All right. They're doing something. They're kids. You know, they're doing something. And then the other thing, now listen, I'll tell you, teepee structures. I get it. I do. Especially when the trees that people say, because I haven't seen that many photographs of them, of this type, they'll say, well, the tree was 30 feet long and 12 inches in diameter, and something carried it in here. I hear that, but I've never seen a photograph of it. The photographs I have seen of trees that are not broken off at the ground are all small enough. What trees I've seen, photographs I've seen, are all small enough that it gets back to the situation of they're doing their survival thing. You got a brush hut, you want to throw up something really, really fast, throw together a teepee, start wrapping your rain ponchos around them. Come on, whatever you got, right?
Yeah.
How many times has it been a situation when you're out like this? Now, if you've had any wilderness training, or even in Boy Scouts, let's take it back that far. Let's build a teepee. All right, you're gonna have to wrap your raincoats around it. Let's say you got to get four uprights. All right, somebody will look at one of the other scouts and he'll say, we need something this long, this big around, go get it. This kid wanders off maybe 50, 60, 70 yards, picks up something that is as big, or breaks it off at the ground and hauls it back. Now that piece in itself was brought in,
Sure.
but nothing says it was brought in by a Sasquatch.
Yeah.
There's nothing there. All you've got is a structure.
Yep.
So somebody could have, I mean, it's 12 feet long. It's 6 inches in diameter. Now, which one of us here could not pick that up and haul it in? Either, any of us could.
You're right.
Very good point.
Carry it 100 yards or even drag it if you can't carry it.
Yep.
You know?
I've seen my 12-year-old do it.
Yeah, well.
Dragging it. He's got to drag it, but I mean, you know, he can still do it. You know, when we're cutting wood and stuff, he can still drag it.
I'm gonna wait.
Us
I'm gonna wait.
grown men are able to do it.
I'm gonna wait my turn now.
No. Listen, I think we're on a good roll here.
Yeah.
I think we're on a good roll. Let's I'd like to open up another can of worms if I could here.
And that's pareidolia, Jeremiah.
But is that how it's pronounced?
Pareidolia.
Let me write that down.
Pareidolia. Yeah.
Days, my teens, my dad and I built a summer camp up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and we built it jungle style, which means we went cut down cedar logs, sunk them into the ground 5 feet, and built our structures off of those. Right.
Okay.
And so we would get upwards of 20-foot long cedar poles, and me and would hook them in from way over. You know what I mean? It'd take us 20 minutes back carrying one of these logs up on our shoulders. You know, so I mean, when people say nobody could do that, I got to look and say, I hate to tell you, but there's people out there that can do that, especially if you have 4 people.
Yeah.
A 30-foot, 12-inch diameter log, it's heavy, but it's not immovable. You know, now I have to look at what's the feasibility of somebody doing that in a given area, but at the same time, it's doable. You know, I'm a very strong young fella.
Well, not only that, Justin, but you know, a key factor, you being raised up where he's at. But what people don't understand, you know, John can even attest to this. There are ways of moving logs without damage. You know, they say, well, they didn't damage the earth. Well, the earth will recover within a few weeks, but there's ways of moving logs without damaging the earth. Even at that, you know, you can roll them across each other. Look at all, go type in on YouTube, back to basics, building a log cabin, and they'll show you how to use rope and tackle, you know, rope and pulley and tackles to move logs 40 inches and 40 feet. But the whole thing is within a couple of weeks, the dirt, even if they did use equipment, the dirt can, the first rain you get, it's going to, especially within a year, you know, everybody knows how easy. Look at a paved road or a concrete. As soon as people get out and quit doing the maintenance, look at the Aztec ruins in South America. They're stone, but they literally get covered up. Mother Earth,
Plants grow back. How often?
Absolutely.
How often do you cut your grass?
Absolutely.
No.
To say that there's no human that could have moved this or no equipment moved this, you're putting yourself out there to be called something that you would not want to be. Very derogatory.
Adding speculation, and you're adding supposed theories to your data that you can't support.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's the last thing you want to do, getting involved in this field.
Speculation.
One of the last things.
I mean, there is so much stuff that I'm seeing, and it just irks me. And I'm not irked at anybody in particular or anything like that. I'm not upset with what this person does because they don't know. They just, they get so fired up on it that it's like, well, it had to be a Bigfoot. Look at this. It's got to be a Bigfoot. It's got to be you know, if you come across you want to find out if that hut that you found on the ground is a Bigfoot, then crawl inside of it with a flashlight and have a look around and
Here's
pick up doo-doo, pick up hair, and bring it all back out. If you've got the cojones big enough to crawl in there, if you think it's a Bigfoot.
Here is another factor too, though, that a lot of people I just don't get about people. Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Yeti, any of these, orang pendek. Do you see gorillas making huts? Do you see orangutans making huts? Now I can understand a nest. I've seen orangutans, and monkeys make nests. But right. How arrogant are we to think that these things that's walked on this planet without fire, without clothing, would need a hut? Now caves, right. There's a good area. Any natural, and also if we think we have to build this stuff because we are not physically attributed to survive without these things are. Why would they build a hut if generations of knowledge, if they could go crawl underneath a cedar tree? I have literally seen more evidence underneath cedar trees and evergreens than I have any hut out there.
Yeah. Well, Gary, you know, they don't need a hut. All they do is get back on the spaceship. Come on.
I mean, that's a very good point. We don't know if they do or not.
Yeah, nobody's seen one. So what the heck?
That's my point. Same way with you and the corn. You've seen that phenomenon happen with the corn. Yep. Has anybody seen one building a hut?
In all the reports I've read, I have never, ever, ever come across one legitimately building what I would call a structure. Yep. I've heard about breaking trees. I've heard about, stuff like that, but nothing where it was specifically an organized building anything. And you guys know I have read, thousands of reports over the past 30 years. That's what I do.
Yeah.
And I come across one that I would say never come across one that I found legitimate in the least.
Yeah.
Building.
I agree.
Just one. Yeah.
Got a question.
Sure.
When I say human beings, when society, when science, whatever, when they decide a group or a culture is civilized, isn't that like when they start recognizing it when they build fire or can build a fire? Isn't that when it is?
It normally has to do with things like, do they have any type of religion? Do they have any type of culture? Do they have any type of art? Do they do anything like that other than basic subsistence living? Okay. People are starting to be considered civilized.
So it's like fire and everything above.
Right.
Okay.
Fire is the basis for it.
Yep.
Because at that point they start talking about you can concentrate your calories, you can cook, you can do all these different things. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a marker of a progression of their civilization, if that makes any sense. Yeah. But the Indians I grew up with, they're not considered civilized at all as far as that goes, and they used fire. Right. They were a pre-Stone Age tribe. All their tools were wooden and bone. They didn't have any type of stone tools.
But they did have some artistic skills, didn't they not?
It was all functional skills. The closest thing that I would say they had to artistic abilities is they could build two different types of flutes. There was a bone flute, which was very rare, that somebody had the knowledge and skill to build a bone flute, and then they had the paint pipes.
So they ended up, I mean, I'm going to make a joke out of it, but they ended up having Saturday night jam sessions.
Absolutely, they did. Oh yeah.
Well, there you go, creativity of music.
Stuff like that. They didn't have
the oldest forms of communication.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't do smoke on the water, but what the hey,
Absolutely. No, they didn't have visual art. They didn't have drawings. They didn't cave paintings. They didn't have any type of paper that they would draw. They didn't do anything like that. They would face paint themselves. There was specific seed pods that they could go. They'd mix it with a little bit of clay and spit, and it would dye it a red color. and they would paint themselves and stuff like that. But that's the extent of it.
Was that for hunting or was that for maybe beauty?
Both, mostly for beauty. And also what we found was the specific seed pod they did, it also act as an insect repellent.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
So it was also utilitarian as well. But mostly it was the ladies that would do it and decorate themselves and the kids and stuff like that.
Were they tattooed?
No tattoos.
No tattoos.
No,
Closest they got was like to paint on the body. Okay. You guys see why I ask this? I hope.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, to me it makes sense. I mean, when they say Bigfoot is intelligent, well, okay, yeah, you throw us out in the woods naked, and a raccoon's going to have it over us. You know, I mean, there's going to be somebody that knows to go down and get some rock, start doing some napping and so forth like that. But that is not what Bigfoot is doing. That is not what Sasquatch. All Sasquatch is doing is showing up on the scene through speculation and building teepee structures and huts through speculation, other than certain photographs that have been taken, which the amount of photographs that have been taken are so few. To me, that's proof, you know, because it's not like it's not like the guys that go out every weekend and they find something. They find one, they see two, they see three or four, they're having a party with a keg. I mean, it's crazy.
Then they see him, you know, here's another ball of worms, a can of worms, excuse me.
Can of worms, open it up. It's a big ball.
I'm going to open it right up, and Gary, you'll be able to back me up. You know, no, I'm not here to bash anyone's beliefs. Not here to bash anyone's theories. Okay, that's not what we're here to do. It's not what any of us are here to do. So, just everyone out there, take that into consideration. Anyone here? Here. Okay. Well, has anyone thought about how good these things are with their environment? That they can, if they want to, they can just naturally into the woods without making it think that
is that else having audio issues, or is it just me?
No, it's Jeremiah's having serious audio issues.
Yeah, you sound like an ant.
No, I apologize.
Have you are you using an external microphone, Jeremiah?
Yeah.
Try moving it just a little bit.
Seems like when you get over to the side, we hear you better than. I don't mean when you dive towards.
Everybody, do me a favor, right quick. John, could you be still for just a second? Jeremiah, move that microphone.
Okay. Is that better?
Okay, now John, could you move, please? Just move around. Okay, Jeremiah, it's not John, it's you.
Is it me?
Yeah. I had talked to Jeremiah about 5 minutes ago about some audio issues, and I thought it was John's cord hitting his chest, but it's not. It's actually Jeremiah's microphone.
Okay. Can you hear me at all?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah, here's my cord wiggling around right there.
Gary, you can now hear it screaming on a ghillie suit and disappear. Just back right up into the woods and disappear, correct?
Jeremiah, we're having so much audio issues. Can you disconnect and use maybe the one on your laptop?
Yeah.
That might work, if that works.
So I think what he's trying to get the point across real quick is that the ability of them to just basically back into a wood line and disappear.
I caught that. You know, I'm trained, you know, I'm not going to say I'm the best in the world, but I have trained with the best, you know, Army Special Forces and survivalists and people, you know, even people like John, you know, with the ancient people's teachings, you know. And I tell people all the time that there's a lot of guys out there better than me. Justin, me and you've talked about it, that could take a backpack and a pocket knife and hit the woods, and you'd see fleeting glimpses of them for 500 miles, you know. when you not only take that, and if you took all the time that I've spent in the woods teaching survival for 35 years, living survival, I have spent a total of my 45 years, and I say 35 because I started when I was 10, hunting and fishing by myself in the woods. I have probably spent the total out in the doors, outdoors living primitive, maybe 3 to 5 years. Okay. You take that and multiply that to something that's multi-generational, that lives in these areas and has the physical and the psychological and the genetic attributes that this species does. For sure, they can. That's where I tell people, we've discussed this a lot. I call them supernatural in the point that they're so natural, it's like they have supernatural abilities, speed, natural camouflage. John, I love how you put that one day when we was talking to Jeremiah about, they wearing buckskins with the fringes helps the Native Americans, and the long hair helps, it breaks up their outline. First thing they teach us in camouflaging in the military is to break up your outline with a ghillie suit. These things have a natural ghillie suit.
Yeah. If you've got long hair like that dripping off your elbows, it breaks it up.
Yep.
Move it around. And when I hear supernatural, I know exactly what you're saying. I don't know that any of the listening people do, but that's like saying, okay, what was his name? Charles Atlas. This way back when. He was said to be the strongest man that ever walked the face of the earth up to that point. That is supernatural.
Yep.
He was
Absolutely.
naturally strong, but he had the ability to be beyond that, which made that supernatural. Now, there's been a lot of people since that have come, that's like saying Bruce Lee. And there's a lot of people about Jet Li. I mean, they are supernatural in the way that they fight. I saw a guy the other day. I know Jeremiah loved this to death. I'm going to have to send him this guy, Jeremiah, natural, automatic, normal speed on the camera. It was like the gunfighter. You don't see his hand move, and he shoots the guy, and he says, "You want to see it again?" I mean, this guy was so freaking fast. To me, that is supernatural.
Exactly.
I know that's what is meant when we say supernatural. I don't know how many other people understand that. It's not like a,
Good. Supernatural is not paranormal.
That's right.
Good point.
Yeah.
So find 6 right definitions of words and how we're using them.
Yep.
Another good point of back to basics and Bigfoot research is if you're going to use a word, you need to be able to define it for the people around you, so you can have that full understanding of what you're talking about.
That gets me in trouble with my wife all the time.
Tell me about it.
Oh, her academia is, did I use the right term just then? I don't know, but yeah. She'll say, well, what you meant to say was such and such. Yeah, well, if it gets me out of trouble, honey, it's exactly what I meant to say. Yeah, Oh yeah, you get you in and out.
Well, I love how you put that, John, about the supernatural. Me and Justin had a pretty in-depth talk about this on one of my shows. I like the phrase paranormal more than I do supernatural, because to me, natural is natural. We are in a natural world. And then when you get above sociological and scientific definitions of a certain level, then it becomes super. And that's where I say super. Jeremiah is the one that me and him kind of made that up. But the supernatural, and then you go into the paranormal. To me, it's like
paranormal to me is 2 people that are normal.
Well, that would not be us.
That's what I was going to say. That's not any of us. That's like, what was it? How many monkeys, or what was it? When you've got 2 monkeys ordering on Amazon, what do you call them? The answer to that is primates, right? So,
but kind of getting back on, I know where Jeremiah's going with the next one before we go into that. I think one of the biggest things that I was, everybody knows that I've kind of backed away from the podcasting and stuff for about the past 6 months to a year and done specifically research. And I've always called it I called it getting back to my roots, because, you know, we have a tendency when we talk and interact with other people, we take their theories and add them with ours and do this and do that. And we start experimenting and stuff like that. But we get away from the actual root of what we're here for. And that's getting out, beating the brush, and searching for what we're either that, or if you can't get out, by doing it through via internet or talking to other people. But we have a tendency to put our own speculation, like y'all said, in our own theories, to the point that it becomes not research, it becomes opinion.
Yeah.
And I've really been pushing it that with myself and my team is, let's get away from all of the opinion and strip away all the stupid stuff and get back to tracks, physical evidence, vocalizations, and sightings, and get away from all this other, because there's plenty of other people out there doing all of that. Let's get back to the natural side of things.
You can.
I had to do it too.
Yeah,
I had to do it for a couple of months too, Gary. A few months, more than a couple of months.
You can get off in the supposed paranormal and speculation to the point that, well, how could I say it? I'm trying to think of a way of saying it. It's you got your mind so wrapped up in the possibilities of maybe in the future. It's like, pull your head out of the future's butt and start using it with what's going on right now. You know, I mean, it's maybe someday this will come. Well, you know, if he did this, then this could happen. Or if he did that, well, yeah, if I wouldn't have thrown that quarter down 20 years ago, this wouldn't happen today, or whatever. But too much speculation and paranormal, or what you think is going to get you so wrapped up in stupid that you're not going to be able to think straight. And the real truth of the matter and the basics, no matter what, I don't care whether you're following squirrels. You got to have the basics. If you ain't got the basics, you don't. Jeremiah, I sent you a video the other day of a woodpecker. Why don't you take that and fly with it?
How many times have, as far as following the evidence, okay, how many people in this field have heard a woodpecker in the woods and said, oh my God, that's a Bigfoot?
Yep. Because they can get loud.
Yeah. And that goes back to our main point. What is the evidence? Follow the evidence. What is it? You know, don't rush to, that's a Bigfoot, you know.
People are hoaxing a bunch of stuff on YouTube right now. It is being hoaxed. I mean, there is a sound, and I won't say from where, but there is a sound where people are going, my God, listen, what is that? And this is the wailing sound and growling and screaming sound. And I found that same sound on a science fiction flick of a dinosaur. Someone had taken it and they had put it and said, what is this? This has got to be a Bigfoot. It was, I mean, there's hoaxing. Come on.
Yep. You know, in saying that, I'm glad you brought that up, John, because me and Jeremiah was talking just the other day. It has almost become taboo. People get offended when you ask them, what has led you to that opinion? What has led you to this? It's like I literally had a person say, how dare you ask me that? My integrity is unquestionable. And I'm like, says who?
Says who? Yeah.
Show me your evidence. Show me what you have. And I'm the world's worst. You know, I've been researching 25 years and I don't have a lot of evidence out there, but what evidence I do have, and that leads on to another point that John, me and you talked about the last time we was talking, that really gets me. I've been researching 25 years and I've lived in the woods a lot more than a lot of people. And my skill set is, and I'm just saying this, I'm not tooting my own horn. I've proven it to you guys. My skill set is a lot better than a lot of people. And I have gotten within 300 yards of a Sasquatch that I know of. They might have been closer and I didn't know them. And I've had one sighting in 25 years. How are these people having sightings every week? If that's the case, where is the evidence?
Yeah.
Where that leads into.
Where are the Bigfoot prints underneath the teepee structures?
Good question.
I've never heard of anybody copy or ever making a cast of a print underneath a teepee structure.
Absolutely.
And I got hit like you did not too long ago. This guy come back on me. Now look, I still have to say, if these things exist, because I'm not here because I've seen one. I'm here because I came across some tracks, and in 47 years, I've heard wood knocking, which might have been a woodpecker getting a midnight snack, because it was around midnight that I heard it. All right. But I've come across tracks and I've heard wood knocking, and I thought I seen something looking at me in the woods, and I want to know what. That's why I'm sitting here right now. But I had some guy hit me up one day. He goes, I am the most prolific, and a bunch of other college words, tracker and well-known. I have found the most predominant track line in, I guess it was Canada or something like this, blah, 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 blah. All right.
In the snow?
Probably. I don't know.
I
Anyway,
know.
I just asked him, I said, so when does your book come out, man? You know, I want a copy that's autographed. I want a copy of the book. When's it come out?
John, you hit a very good point. What are we here for? Well, we have to find out if it exists.
Yeah.
Then we have to figure out, what is it? Why is it here? And how do we document this? Look at one of the most elusive animals on the planet, the mountain gorilla. Until the early 1900s, it was a myth. We have more evidence of the mountain gorilla and the blue whale and the giant squid and all these other, but nothing in the scientific community. Key point, there's a lot of evidence out there, but in the scientific community than we do here. The simple fact is, just like you said, John, people get this evidence, but they don't process it and present it in a scientific manner that makes it creditable.
I want to give you one before I forget it right now. And I challenge anybody that's listening, because I know it exists. And people are going to say, oh, you're out of your mind. A deer with gills. The deer has gills.
Yep.
Has gills. Nobody said it swam. This deer has gills. And the area of this deer is the Vietnam forests.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Check it out.
Yes, you're right.
People are going to say it don't exist. How could it exist? Nothing like that could exist. All right. Check it out.
Well, in saying that, every one of us here, I believe every one of us here believe that Sasquatch is real.
Yes.
Yep.
I mean, there's no
something there. Yeah.
There's something there. Key point. And I love how y'all present that. There is something there. I don't know what it is, but I'm searching for it. And when I find it, I'm going to question it and question my sightings. Where do people get, man, y'all got me on a tangent here. Where do people get that they're so confident in just like you said, John, in their own beliefs and their own abilities, that something you have to circle in red and you have to point out to people is the real thing?
Yeah. If I can't see it in a picture, what am I supposed to do with it? Really? I mean, honestly. I mean, I've actually circled a couple of things, but it was like someone said it was a dog man. And I looked at, of course, I'm going to tell you what I think about dog man right now. No, I'm not, because you're not old enough. But that's beside the point. This was a picture of a dog man. And what I saw was two birds sitting side by side, And I went around and outlined the birds, the tail, the belly, the whole bit on both birds. But the pixels were so terrible, and it was so far away.
Pareidolia.
Okay.
Pareidolia.
Pareidolia.
Excuse me.
Yes. It was pareidolia.
Well, you know,
Absolutely.
something that I love, we've all discussed this, but I've always got a kick out of people that takes a cast or takes a picture of a track, and they get mad at me when I say, where's the others? Well, where's the other what? Where's the other tracks? Well, I couldn't find any. They wasn't there. No, they was there. Your skill set was not good enough to allow you to encompass that information. Because people concentrate. I've been out in the woods with so many groups, and we find a good decent track, and then 20 people come running in, and they don't think to look for the other sign, and they just destroy it. Same way with research. Same way with your pictures. Okay, I've got a picture of this little outline. Well, where's the picture you took before that and the picture after that? Or if it comes out of a video clip, where's the video clip? Oh, I'm not going to present that because it does not verify what you want it to.
And it may not even exist. You know, this just happened to be pareidolia that they looked at. That's like the tracks that I've got the pictures of. My God, I think they are sitting in front of me tonight. But the tracks that I've got the pictures of, I saw one. And I was just going down a trail, and I seen this one, and I went, gee, man, freaking, anyway, as I'm standing there at the track, and I'm looking around me. All right. My mistake was, and I corrected it, was I was looking around me. I needed to look out and away. So I went and started a Mandela going out and around. You know, you see a dog, the way the dog will hunt, I picked it up from them. They'll start from one point and they'll start going around like this and around, and then until they pick up, and then off on they go. All right. I started doing that, and then off about 5.5 feet out, and there it was, the next track. So I thought, okay, that's 5.5 feet. I lined the 2 tracks up, and I walked 5.5 feet behind it.
Absolutely.
There was another track.
Perfect.
I could not find another track except one that I think was a track, and it was across the trail that I was walking. It was on a hillside side, and it looked like it made a slid, but it was just like one spot that slid. But I only found the 3 tracks. So I could get an idea where he was coming from. And I think, I say he, she, I don't know, it was coming from because of the way that the track was on going down the hill, and it slid. So I knew it put its weight there, and it had to be going in that direction, which would have been going northwest to make that track. Anyway.
Well, there,
you got to follow it up. Yeah.
You did more field research in the 15 minutes it took you to do that than most so-called researchers are doing
15 years.
Any given time.
Absolutely.
Reality of it, right?
You got to do it. That's, I mean, I know somewhat of, I know something about track. I'll put it that way.
Field researcher.
You what? I'm sorry, you broke up.
Like you said, they all rush to the one track because everybody wants that cast. Everybody wants that perfect cast, that perfect picture, that perfect piece of evidence for them. But that's not research, guys. If you're out there, you got to look at everything. Like you said, you find those other tracks, look for direction of travel. If you had Gary's skill set, you probably could have followed that track a lot further in both directions by looking at other evidence and not just looking for, impressions in it. You know what I mean? Because there's other ways to travel. But you did what you could, which was, I'm going to keep looking because there's got to be more evidence, not just an isolated track.
Right.
Trackways come and go, and different types of substrate in the ground, or I believe these things are smart enough to walk in areas that leave the least amount of evidence possible, for the most part, when they can, and that's just any type of predatory animal kind of follows those same guidelines as they can. They're going to be the quietest and go in areas that are going to cause the least amount of disturbance possible. So they're alerting the other animals around them. I mean, this is kind of standard animal practice.
I've got this one casting here. I only got one casting, and it wasn't, well, it's this one right here. And I got it from Jeff Mulder and Bob, what's his name? Bob Titmus cast this. Now, this was from 1967.
Yep.
All right. This was one of the ones that was where Patty was. Okay.
Yep.
Mid-torsal break. All right. So forth like that. I can't begin to tell you the time I've sit there and looked at this track with nothing more than my jeweler's loop going over it, sitting here just trying to see what I could see, if it was a good enough of a casting. I just, out of curiosity, is dermal ridges, so forth like that. But there is so much stuff, debris that was picked up. You know, you can see it in the casting. So, but what that leads to is like debris. Okay, what kind of debris? Well, what kind of sand was it? Is that gravel? Was it sand? Just exactly what was it? And
that would tell you a lot.
It tells you a bunch.
Yeah.
Yep.
I may not be able to know what it tells me, but I know it tells bunch, you know.
Well, in saying that, we have a certain set of parameters that's been instilled for over 200 years in modern scientific society that the law enforcement and the scientists have used. They have discovered every species on this planet that we have discovered using these formats.
Yeah.
Why are we as researchers, I've talked to a bunch of them, why are we as researchers think that we're so good that we should not use those same procedures?
Right.
They have literally discovered every known species, a same set of parameters. Why can't we, as a general populace of researchers, if you want to, I don't call them researchers, but why are you to think that you're so better than a person that holds a doctorate or a person that's had 25 years of specific training that have apprehended serial killers and everything else? But you're too good to use those procedures. What makes you think that?
You know, one of the funny things is I'm into history, early American history, and I got my flintlock rifle, and I get out in the woods, and I've gone out and used what they call experimental archaeology. You know, you get out, you build a fire with flint and steel and so forth like that. But the odd thing about it is where I've done that by researching different books. I mean, the books are like, you know, about Simon Kenton and Daniel Boone and maybe
George Washington Fears,
Wetzel,
Lou Wetzel,
you know, things like that. Oh, that was a pathological problem. But what I'm getting at is I learned this, and I've had college professors call me.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Because they respect knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just, how do you do this? Well, I've read that. But what it also does is it kind of speeds up. I'm like the Cliff's Note to them. You know, in cases, it speeds up something for a class the next day.
Sure.
And
for the simple fact, it comes down to all of it with all of you guys. You do your research.
You've got to, and documentation.
Absolutely.
See, that's kind of what I try and be for the Bigfoot community and other, 14 community all around is try and be that, I'm not going to discover anything. That's not what I'm out there for. I'm not out in the field like you guys are. I'm not out there beating the bush like Gary is. I'm the guy you guys call and say, hey, have you ever heard of this? Do you ever come across this? I'm a reference tool. That's
you
really
do a hell of a job, Justin.
I'm a reference tool for you guys where if you come across something, you can go, have you heard of this? Or do you know anything about this? And then I can be a nerd on and go from there with it. That's exactly what I try and be, is like John's talking about with his expertise with the early American history. And it's because you've done that background research. You've done the reading that other people haven't done. And
I run with people that do the same stuff.
Of information, the right combination of information to be able to put pieces together other people aren't,
There's two tools that are really easy for a person to have. Two tools. And that's that, and maybe a tape measure. And have an idea of the weather and have an idea of what date and time it is. And that right there, that will save you an awful lot of grief at least you may not be able to take a picture, but you can write down what you saw, and you can sit there with a pencil with an eraser and draw the thing the best you possibly can.
Absolutely.
You may not be an artist, but try.
Well, let me give you an idea, John.
Draw what you see.
Let me give you an idea. I've been through. Go ahead, John. Justin.
No.
I was saying, that's what I always tell people when you're gathering reports, get the small details that you can. Because saying I saw a Bigfoot walk across the road really doesn't tell anybody anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah. See, I get mine. I get
reports like that.
I get mine from Cabin Coffee. Those are all. Anyway.
What length was the hair? Did you see any body parts? Did you see any of that? You know, ask those questions and get those, again, back to basics, man. Don't just be like, oh my gosh, somebody told me a Bigfoot report.
Oh, yeah.
In there, dig, because you never know what that one detail is that they're going to pick up on that other people aren't, or it's going to make some connections, make some pieces fit. I heard a report recently out of Cades Cove in my area up here in Gatlinburg, where the gentleman noticed the male organ on this creature, you know, and it's opened up a lot of questions for me, and it's kind of, you know, because it wasn't the normal reporting of what you know, it's all this information. But those are the kind of details are going to stick in somebody's mind.
Sure.
Right? They're not going to get the details of the entire creature because our brains don't work that way. It'll
focus in on one.
They're going to get a shot, exactly, of maybe just the face. Maybe the face is what their mind honed in on, or maybe, you know, texture or the knees or the feet. There's always one area that our brain hones in on.
Yeah.
You know,
eye flicker or something.
Like, the eyes. I can't get the eyes out of my head, you know?
Yeah.
The hands were amazingly huge. They can give you all these details about the hands. So get as many details of whatever thing they focus on as we can. That's very important. Again, to basics on gathering reports from people.
Yep.
Details.
Well, you know, one thing, this will kind of cross over for all of you, but I think John covered something that's very important to me. In no less than 5 of the things that I learned throughout years, that was one of the most important tools we had, including Jeremiah, you'll get a kick out of this. Survival, note, paper, and pen. Land nav, note, paper, and pen.
Yep.
Artillery ballistics,
Nope.
Regular shooting ballistics, note, paper, and pen, write stuff down. Interviewing, note, paper, and pens. MMA, note, paper, and pen, writing down information. Once again, documentation. That's just in the areas that I know, you know, even loading firearms, no paper and pen, write stuff down. Why do people not get it in their head? Carry something with you and write it down, because you're going to forget. The one thing, the saving grace from my face-to-face sighting, as soon as I left and went to my father's house an hour and a half later, he handed me a piece of paper and pencil and said, write it down.
You know, you're out in the woods and you're lost. You just write it down. I need help. You put it on a tree, and the next
Absolutely.
tree, you put it on the next tree. You put it on. You might be able to find your way back. You know.
Absolutely.
Breadcrumbs.
Note, stuck on an abandoned island. Note, paper, and pen. Put it in a bottle. You know, this throughout history that's brought this on. But once again, it's not just the note, paper, and pen, but it's that mindset of documentation. And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to get off this tangent, but I am so sick of interviewing people or talking to people about something, and I start asking certain questions and they get offended at me because I'm asking standardized questions. Was you drinking that night? Do you have a history of mental illness? Was you on any prescription drugs? What are you doing? I'm not wrong here. This is not an investigation. I'm like, yeah, it is.
Yes,
we're collecting data.
Yeah, you said it. Let's prove it. That's
exactly.
You want me to believe you? Tell me the truth.
Exactly.
Or don't be afraid of the hard questions.
Yeah.
You know how many times people ask me, I have a history of alcoholism. Everybody knows it. It's public record. You know how many times people interviewing me about my sighting, was you drinking that night? No. Did I get offended? No. but I had a history of alcohol. So alcohol would definitely either be detrimental or affect my interpretation of that stimulus. You know, Justin, I love how you said it when me and you was talking about it. It was like, was you drinking within 24 hours? No, I hadn't been drinking 6 months. Well, keep that in mind, Gary, because people are going to bring that up.
Yep.
You know, don't get offended, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's important.
That reminds me, I got stopped by a cop one night. I was late. I was coming home. Now, I'm not a drinker. All right. And I get stopped by this cop and he goes, "Have you been drinking?" And this is like 2:30 in the morning. And I went, "Yes, sir, I have. It's right here." And I showed him my chocolate shake that I had gotten from White Castle. And he just rolled his eyes around. He went, "Okay, all right, okay." You know, but I didn't have time for all that. But yeah, it's documentation, and that's what he was trying to do.
Yeah.
And that's where, it brings us back to that's one of the main points we were trying to get through. I mean, like you said, Gary, people can't get offended, with these questions. It's gathering data, gathering the right data.
If you want to be believed, then tell the truth or as what you understand.
Yep.
To the best of your ability.
For the lack of better terms, this whole field, this whole genre is the nature of the beast. Folks, we're literally chasing the tooth fairy, a non-proven, which would make it a mythological entity, creature, whatever you want to call it. So in saying that, when people like us, we're not trying to, if nothing else, we're trying to help you prove your instance. We're going to have to ask certain questions. Now, as investigators, and I say investigators because I don't say I'm a researcher because I don't have a scientific degree, but well, I actually do, but not in this field. But my whole point is when we as people that's talking to these people have to remember that this is very traumatic. Think of when we had our sightings. So we have to present ourselves in a little bit more of and Jeremiah, I love how you put it, more of a compassionate professional aspect. In your career, what you're doing now, you're having to present yourself. It's a long ways from being an MMA fighter where you're cracking skulls.
Absolutely.
But how you present that is a big factor there too. And that comes to the people that are trying to prove this. If you would present yourself in a little bit more professional, instead of the Billy Bob got probed by an alien and seen the werewolf jumping across the, it don't make no sense. It's like present it in a format, because I have talked to legitimate scientists, and I love how Dr. John Mindernagel, God rest his soul, said it. He goes, the scientific community wants to believe you, but you have to present it in the format that they have been doing for the last 250, 300 years. They're not going to accept anything else.
Yeah, speculation. You have to present it to them because science is purely speculative.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
I recently had the pleasure of meeting Dr. Meldrum.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Jeff Meldrum, yeah.
And I actually got to speak to him for a little bit, which was, I was geeking out, right? Because I'm a huge fanboy when it comes to stuff like that. But I was able to present to him one of my theories on the Bigfoot foot structure. Mm-hmm. And you could tell at first he was very polite, okay, but he was treating me like I was just another random fan dude.
Oh yeah,
they're trying to come up and talk to the Bigfoot guy, right? But the way I was able to present myself professionally to him, and you guys know how I do when I get my nerd on, and I was able to show him I know what I'm talking about. I'm using the right words. I'm having this discussion with them, and he actually took the time to have the discussion with me about my theory. And it was at the end of the show. They were kicking us out of the auditorium. He was going back to his table, and he's like, "Man, I got to go. I can't talk." I'm like, "Dude, I will walk with you." He's like, "Oh, okay." So I walked with him back to his table, and we had this good discussion. Now, it was very short compared to what I like to do because, me, I like to talk. But we had a good discussion, and he took me very seriously because I was able to present myself in a knowledgeable fashion.
Absolutely.
And it made you know.
When I met him, all I had to do was mention to him that I knew Will Jevning, and then he hit me. So no, I'm kidding.
Well, I'm not.
We got along, but yeah.
It was great. I even got his business card, so I have his contact information now if I ever need to get a hold of him on something.
You know,
I got his phone number too.
the devil's advocate of that is you don't have to have a college degree to do something right.
I don't know.
But you can, some of the most analytical and most, how would we say, proven information I've got in this community, in this field, like y'all, I've been doing this 20, 25 years, 24 to be exact, but has come from people that didn't know their head from a hole in the ground, but they was either hunters or engineers that was real analytical. And once again, they focused on, like what John said, and you were saying, on that one thing. Well, then I could take that information. Well, let's focus on that and just start moving around in your mind. Let's just start backing the picture up, for rolling back on the deal. And they were so analytical that they was able to give me information. They didn't even know what they was seeing, but they was able to give it to me. And through this, like Justin said earlier about taking a report from here and a report from there, and us being able to put the information together, we was able to, how would we say, present them with something that they didn't even know what they was, there's like, holy crap, now I've got the scope of the pattern here. And to me, it's a mindset. It's a observation. No, that's not the word. Yeah, it would be. Their observation to me is more important than their information. How they're looking at this, and you just tell me what you saw.
Yeah.
And let me put the words, put it together. I don't lead them on, but you just tell me what you saw in your words. I don't need you to be all analytical. Just tell me what you saw.
It's like it's kind of like what I said just a little bit earlier. It's like some of these people have got their head shoved so far up their future ideas, but that they can't see what's going on right in front of them right now. And you have to backtrack. You have to go back to pick up what you're looking at right now. Don't try and throw it into the future. You're not there yet. That works with a lot of things, but
absolutely every aspect of life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty secular, but that's.
Well, it's just like in tracking. Don't concentrate on the track 300 yards ahead of you. Concentrate on the one that's right in front of you, and then go find the next one, and you'll eventually get to the one that's 300 yards ahead of you. Yeah. Same with math. There's a formula. Don't worry about the answer until you get the formula correct. It comes down to, like we were saying, that set procedures that's been set in stone. John, you building a knife, you're not going to quench it before you do your shaping and your heat treat. There's a certain set of procedures.
Not usually, but I have been known to make that mistake before. A long time ago, but yeah.
That's my whole point. We have there has been enough sightings on this subject matter and enough information out here on this subject matter that there is no reason why we don't have, as a community, just like the scientific community. Now, I do understand that different scientists have differences in opinions and stuff, but there is a standardized set of procedures. This community, they don't give a rat's ass about that. Sorry, I didn't mean to cuss. They want to present their own ideology. Well, we should, by this time, when was the first official, was the tracks in California that got the name Bigfoot, the mainstream,
1958.
Okay, so that's 60, 70 years, 80 years?
Yeah.
Why don't we have a standardized, as a community, formula?
I got to ask a question real fast. Those tracks, 58. Is that before Ivan? What did I say his name was? Ivan Marks.
Russian.
Yeah.
Yes, that was before Ivan Marks and his.
Okay.
The California rut that ended up with Patty and all that. 58 was that the Jerry Crews tracks? I think it was.
Yes.
Bigfoot was coined originally.
Okay.
I mean, again, if we're really looking at historical sightings, I mean,
It goes way back farther than that.
You
newspaper
got Chipton and Himalayas, and yeah,
but even if we're just talking like newspaper, you're talking, late 1800s they had them. They just didn't have
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was just using that as an example. That's 80 years. We should have, as a community,
points. And so your point is valid with the date for sure. That's where it's mainstream.
Yeah.
Yep.
But we should have a standardized. The reason we don't is because nobody wants to. Now we do. We've all gotten together and kind of got a standardized, setup. But this community doesn't want to. I'm just going to say this, and it might make a lot of people mad. The reason they don't want to is because they don't want you proving them wrong because they're full of crap. Is a Christmas turkey.
Absolutely.
That's a good part of it. Also, everybody wants the notoriety. They want the fame. They want to be the one. They want to be the famous one in the field, and so they don't want to share information. They don't want to work as a group to get it done. Does that, you know what I mean? I think that's part of it too. I've seen that a lot.
Yeah.
I'm often reminded of the video that I saw. Jeremiah, I sent it to you, and you probably remember it. And God bless him, bless the guy's heart. Anyway, he got out there somewhere out west. I believe it was actually in Colorado, and where I lived. And he came up with this area that somebody had pointed to him, and it was a medicine wheel. All right. And he said, he was so excited about it. Only a Bigfoot could have done this. He said, look down there at this rock. This rock was probably a little bit bigger than a football. And he said, that's got to weigh a couple 100 pounds. Only a Bigfoot could have carried this in. Only a Bigfoot could have done this. And then he said, look at how the logs are laid in a line across. It was a medicine wheel. And if he'd have looked a little bit further, he would have found another medicine wheel in conjunction with it. It was basically a powwow site that he had come across. And my comment to him was, don't touch anything. Just get the hay out and forget you saw it and don't go back. Have a little bit of respect for it. He had no idea what it was. And he made the comment, he goes, look, they had to carry these white rocks in because the white rocks made this whole circle around it. And he panned the camera. He goes, look, there's no white rocks anywhere else. They carried them in. Well, hey, they picked all the white rocks up off the ground and brought them in. Yeah. From the immediate area, they picked up every white rock to build this circle. No wonder there wasn't any white rocks laying around. Okay. Yeah. But it was, God bless the guy. I mean, I don't know who he was, but it was like, hello, this is a powwow area. This area is sacred. Get away from it. Leave it alone. But it was a medicine wheel, and this guy thought it was a Bigfoot because someone else had said, hey, I got this Bigfoot thing. Anyway, all right. I probably just got myself in trouble.
No, it leads back to what we started out with. What is the evidence? But gentlemen, I hate to do this, but yeah, this is a great show. We've been going a couple hours now. This is an awesome show. I think we should this coming week pick up where we left off, to be honest with you. If you guys are down. Gary, thanks for coming on, man.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on, buddy. Justin, thanks for coming on. John,
hey, it's a pleasure talking to you guys. I always get so much out of it. I really enjoy it.
Absolutely. And we will, like we said to all you viewers out there, post some questions and we'll answer them for you this coming week. Everyone have a great night. This has been Skookum Session Bigfoot Podcast, Season 4, Episode 4. We will see you next week. Everyone have a good night.
God bless y'all.
God bless.